Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We provide fan-oriented and analytic discussion on a variety of animated shows, movies, and anime, currently featuring Steven Universe, Star Wars: The Forces of Evil, and Samurai Jack, among others. I'm Justin Cummings, and today I'm joined by Dylan Hysen.
Hello.
That is still so weird to say. I'm not used to it. This is only the second time I've, hosted you.
Yes.
It's still strange saying your name. I don't like it.
You can add this to the OVA history, but yeah.
The OVA history as we continue. But today, Dylan and I are here for one of our, I've been calling these the Patron Pick podcasts. I don't know if you like that term.
Yeah.
This is our third Patron Pick of the month. I guess now it's April, but this is for John, aka Garfield. And Dylan and I are here to review Yu-Gi-Oh! The Dark Side of Dimensions. We've previously done Welcome to the NHK and American Dragon Jake Long. You can find those as well as this and all our podcasts at overlyanimated.com or by searching Overly Animated on iTunes or your favorite podcatcher, including my favorite, Stitcher. So let's start. This, again, is for John. Thank you so much for all you do for us.
Even though, you can check out all of our patron awards, patreon.com/overlyanimated. This tier will be changing, so you can't get the specific reward, but you can check out all of them there. Yeah.
And if we're going to go out, we got to go out with a bang. And this was something special, Dylan. This was a very interesting movie. But let's start because originally we had considered me hosting with Michelle, and I'd asked her, I said, do you want to be on this? And her response was, ha ha ha, ha ha ha, no.
Yeah,
so
that's not that unsurprising. Yeah.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Is, especially now in like 2017, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is kind of a niche audience, I'd say. So what is your history with the franchise?
Yeah, so I haven't done anything with Yu-Gi-Oh! In a while, but I was a big fan when I was like 10. I played the card game for a period. I don't have a lot of memories from, but I played the card game from this time. I think I saw the first movie in theaters. So like, I think I watched the anime. Like, I was actually like a big Yu-Gi-Oh! Fan at the time, and I don't really remember anything from that. Like, watching this movie, it didn't come flooding back. I don't remember the plot, but I was definitely into it at that age.
So my history is basically my mother's greatest regret. She decided for my 8th birthday she was going to buy me Yu-Gi-Oh! The movie on DVD. Or it might have even been VHS at the time. I can't remember. But she bought me Yu-Gi-Oh! The movie. And she decided to go with it. She was going to get me just one pack of Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards. Well, me and all my birthday money waltzed right into Toys R Us, bought a dual disc and a starter deck. And the rest is history. And she, thousands of cards later, she highly regrets that decision. But yeah, I just immediately fell in love with it. It reminded me a lot of Pokemon, but at the same time, it was definitely a bit darker. Especially if you watch the Japanese version, it's darker, but it's still a good story. I tried to keep up. I've seen most of the original anime. I've seen like half of what's called Season 0, the one that never made it to America because it was just far, far, far too dark. I've seen parts of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, parts of 5Ds, the first like 3 seasons of Zexal. I haven't seen Arc 5 yet, but I've been told it's good. I'm not touching the new one with a 10-foot pole until I hear whether it's good or not. Card games on skateboards. You guys got to convince me. But I've been a huge fan of the franchise for a while. I'd fallen out of playing the card game until I found Dueling Network, which got me back into it. Then Dueling Network got shut down, and I was really sad. But I still, of course, have a soft spot for the franchise. As you know, Dylan, I'm a fan of the Abridged series as well, which is still going. And it's weird watching the movies now unabridged because I'm so used to the abridged versions. Like, there's one of the movies I still have not seen the regular version, and I can't because I love the abridged so much, and I know the original will ruin it for me because the abridged, they actually parody Tenacious D, and that's great. But yeah, so when I heard there was a new movie with Yugi and Kaiba, I had to jump on, and they even got a lot of the original cast back. So nice. I was excited for this. I don't know why it was over 2 hours long. Even after seeing it, I don't know why it was over 2 hours long.
Wait, first, let's set this. So this is a movie from last year in Japan. It released this year in America. So this is like pretty recent. Is what we're talking about. Yeah. I tried to figure out if it was in theaters. I think it was like a limited release in theaters.
Yeah, it got a limited run. Yeah. Apparently the DVD is coming out soonish. Apparently I don't even know, man. Like, they've been so weird about getting Yu-Gi-Oh! To America. Like, I don't even think Arc 5 aired on TV at all because Saturday morning cartoons kind of just died. But I think they put the entire show on their YouTube channel. Like, that's how little they cared at this point.
Yeah. It must have. So we watched this, both watched this dubbed, so in English.
Yes. Dan Green. Oh boy.
It must have came out somehow on DVD. It doesn't seem like it's came out on DVD yet, but like we found it online. So like, I don't understand that, but you know, it's out there, I'd say. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, do you want to jump into our thoughts? We kind of started getting into that with the over 2 hours long thing here.
Yeah. So, I'm going to start actually by kind of setting up the plot of the film, and then we'll dive in because, like,
I assume a lot of people listening haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen it, the film starts, the American version starts a year after the end of Yu-Gi-Oh! So to quickly recap what happens in Yu-Gi-Oh! Like Duel Monsters, all 5 seasons, like just Yugi completes the Millennium Puzzle, shares a body with the Pharaoh. We eventually find out the Pharaoh is this old Egyptian guy named Atem. In the season 5 finale, Yugi beats the Pharaoh in a duel. Atem can finally move on to the afterlife, leave the Millennium Puzzle. All the Millennium items are put into like this ancient stone, including the evil Millennium Ring that had been like the main antagonist, I guess, of the whole franchise, even though they waited till season 5 to show it. Really, like, Bakura was such a wasted character. So, the Millennium Puzzle collapses with everything else. It's lost. It's gone. Atem's gone. And so this movie picks up a year later. Our gang's about to graduate high school. Seto Kaiba cannot let go of the fact that he never beat the Pharaoh. And he is apparently rich enough to not only own a space station, but send a crew to Egypt to try to find the Millennium Puzzle. What did you think about that opening scene, Dylan?
I like the setup of that. I think watching this movie, I hadn't seen like a trace of Yu-Gi-Oh! In like 10 years. And I think that it was very accessible for me. Like I understood what was happening the whole time.
Right. So we jump back in. It was a good jump. It was a good return. Like, I like the first part of this movie. It was a bit weird seeing like kind of the updated graphic version of these characters, like especially Mokuba. I don't know what happened to Mokuba, but everyone else looked relatively similar to their old show version, except Mokuba, and I'm still not over it. But it was really cool just to see the whole cast again, like Yugi, Joey, Taya, Tristan, Bakura, see the whole gang again, even Grandpa. How many characters did you actually remember, Dylan?
Yugi, I remember that there was a Joey Wheeler. And
you remember Kaiba, right?
I remember the name Kaiba. I didn't remember that he was Tony Stark. Like that, I didn't.
Seto Kaiba.
So it's this. Okay, watching this movie dubbed, it is the stupidest thing that everyone calls him Seto Kaiba, both full name, full Japanese name, and then the other character is Joey Wheeler. Like, what is even that? Why did we translate this name and then Seto Kaiba is still Seto Kaiba and you have to call him Seto Kaiba the entire time? Like,
because he's Seto Kaiba.
Yeah, I know. It's
like saying Tony Stark.
People call him Tony and Bruce. Like everyone, there's no one.
Some people call him Seto.
I guess that happened.
Mokuba calls him Seto. Some people just call him Kaiba. I'm pretty sure like only certain people call him Seto Kaiba.
Yeah, is he in the rest of the series just like Tony Stark or is he like richer in this movie than before?
Kaiba's backstory is that he and his brother were orphaned and they were adopted by this guy who was rich because he owned like a nuclear arms company or something like that. Like he was a weapons dealer, so Tony Stark. But I think like he died or something, and Kaiba took over the company, and he decided that he didn't want to manufacture weapons anymore, so he turned Kaiba Corp from a weapons company to a children's card game company. And that is how we ended up with Space Kaiba.
So his company makes. So I got that he made a new dual disc, but it seems like his company wasn't focused on making card game stuff.
They're focused on Kaiba's ego is the best way to describe it.
Yeah, it seems like the whims of him. By the way, there's this. So in this movie, Kaiba is like the tech guy, and there's one point when he's about to be like killed by the villain, and he's like no, and he's like pulls out something, and we have no idea what it is, and we have no idea what's happening, and he's like, this is the power of tech, and the other guy's like, no,
literally he's like, technology beats magic.
Yeah, and there's no explanation. It was so absurd. That was one of the highlights, I think.
There were certain parts of this movie that I really, really liked, and then certain parts I couldn't stand.
Yeah.
And so it's such a weird mix. So I want to, before we like dive into the plot, I want to go over like my highlights and my lowlights. Is that okay?
Okay.
So my highlights was a lot of the plot points we touched on. Yugi, living without the pharaoh. I thought that was a really interesting thing to explore. Kaiba's just obsession with beating him, because we saw it a bit in the series, but we never truly kind of explored that, and it was really cool to see like just how obsessed he was, especially as the film progressed. And then the consequences of Bakura having been possessed by the spirit of the ring. That's something we never really touched on, because they were like, oh yeah, Bakura's our friend. He was just possessed by an evil monster hell-bent on destroying the world. So it was an interesting, like, there are consequences for Bakura. And so I thought that was really cool to explore. My low points were the constant Deus Ex Machinas that would not go away.
Yeah.
The fact that they introduced dimension dueling without ever explaining truly. The fact that the spirit thing never actually came into play in the slightest.
Yep.
The fact that Kaiba had like a Deus Ex Machina deck of dragons. Because, like, in the first movie, Kaiba gets Blue Eyes Shining Dragon. And, yeah, it's kind of that card's kind of a Deus Ex Machina. I have the card. It's a Deus Ex Machina. However, they explained that card. Like, the whole point of the last movie, Pyramid of Light, or the last, I guess, original Yu-Gi-Oh! Movie, was Kaiba wanted to beat the Egyptian god cards. He goes to Pegasus. He finds 2 cards capable of beating the god cards. Pegasus only knew of one. Pegasus, the guy that made Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Duel Monsters, rather. And Blue Eyes Shining Dragon was created to defeat the Egyptian god cards. And then this card, Pyramid of Light, is introduced. So it all made sense. Like, all the new cards were explained. I've never heard of Deep Eyes White Dragon. I don't know where Kaiba found this. I don't know how many new Blue Eyes boosters Kaiba has created. I know there were several. Of the Blue Eyes boosting cards I know of, none of them were shown at all. I don't know what Kaiba was doing. I've never heard of Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon.
Yeah, let me say, having not like seen the new iterations of this in 10 years, there's like Blue Eyes and White Dragon, there's like Red Eyes or whatever. And in this movie, they're like Blue Eyes Ultimate Neo Super Awesome Dragon. Like, and then there's like 5 iterations of it. It was like very fun. It was like very funny.
Now, like and the thing is, I know of like one awesome upgrade kind of Blue Eyes, and that's Azure Eyes Silver Dragon. And we didn't even get that. Like, the one new Blue Eyes thing I knew, and we didn't even see it. So I'm like, really? And just all of just the Deus Ex Machina abilities of Kaiba's deck. And Yugi's deck, for the record. But it was the dueling, which should have been the high point, was kind of a mess, honestly. But it didn't take away from me enjoying the movie that much.
I still really enjoyed it. I think the best duel was the first one they showed between Kaiba and Pharaoh, which wasn't even real. And then I feel like it was kind of all downhill from there.
I would like to throw out the fact that they still have not explained how Kaiba had an Obelisk the Tormentor. Because they were like, the Egyptian god cards were destroyed. How do you have it? And he's like, I do. And then
yeah. He brings that out, and then that's no explanation given. I guess we're gonna increasingly get into spoilers here, but
So I have found Deep Eyes White Dragon Are you
Okay.
ready to hear its actual card effect?
Sure.
It has 0 attack and 0 defense. When a face-up blue-eyes monster you control is destroyed by battle or an opponent's card effect, and you have a dragon-type monster in your graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand, so we did that right. And if you do, inflict 600 damage to your opponent for each dragon-type monster with different names in your graveyard. We got that. If this card is normal special summon, target one dragon-type monster in your graveyard, and this card attack becomes equal to that monster's. If this card on the field is destroyed by a card effect, destroy all monsters your opponent controls. So they actually did get the effect exactly correct. They just never explained any of it.
That is too complicated. Rules text.
It's a very pretty card, though. Just very, very, very pretty.
Yeah,
it looks stupid in the movie, but it's very pretty.
I wanna agree with something you said before, which was that dimension summoning in this movie really fell flat. They introduced this mechanic of to dimension summon you have to like drain your own life force to boost up the powers like your creature's attack or whatever, and then like the villain is like doesn't do it fully, but then every time our hero does it, they do it fully. And the first time he comments on it, he's like, "What? Why would you do that?" And then it's just like they keep doing it, and there's no negative ramifications, and we don't even know their creatures get killed, but they don't. The monsters they get killed, and we don't like negatively affect them. So it was a very weird mechanic to insert because it didn't do anything in the plot.
I'm just surprised that all the cards they used were real cards because I'd never heard of most of these cards. I'm like, what is Gandora X, the Dragon of Ruin? And since when does Yugi touch dragon cards with a 10-foot pole? But apparently Gandora X is a real card.
The cubic monsters that the villain uses seem really stupid. I assume that's like an expansion.
Well, yeah. Yu-Gi-Oh! Has a lot of archetypes.
Yeah.
And they'll like have those themed together. And so I'm sure that you can actually get all the cubic monsters. And it seemed like a really weird archetype to run. Like just thinking from a game perspective, it seems really, really specific.
Yeah.
But, to each their own.
They tried to keep escalating the giant cubic thing that he summons. And it's like, okay, it's just like another giant blob thing. Like I was not a fan of the cubic monsters.
Blue Eyes Chaos Max Dragon is a ritual card. I am impressed that these cards all do actually exist. They probably were made like a month before the movie, but they do exist.
Yeah, probably made in conjunction, yeah.
But the cubic monsters, like they tried to like escalate from like king to god to lord to emperor, and they ran out of words and just started repeating them.
Yeah, they did.
Like I think they used lord at least twice, and I'm like, okay, just from a naming perspective. This is from the guy that ran when Dueling Network existed. I ran Super Quants, which is literally a Power Rangers Yu-Gi-Oh deck. So, of course, I would use it.
Unsurprising, yeah.
From the guy that ran Power Rangers in Yu-Gi-Oh, this is stupid. I liked Lemon Magician Girl and Apple Magician Girl more than that.
It was like this intense moment, and then they bring out these absurd cards. It's like, and I feel like Kaiba says like, don't like, or someone says like, don't bring fruit at me or something, Yeah.
There were a few lines of dialogue I did really enjoy. Like, you really hate dragons, don't you?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Like, I really liked Kaiba in this movie. My issue with Kaiba has always been he's like a tertiary antagonist, and this movie kind of felt like a rehash of Battle City, Bonds Beyond Time, and Pyramid of Light. Battle City in that we have this big tournament, and we think this guy's our friend, but he's really not our friend. He's really the villain, which was basically what happened with Merrick in Battle City. Pyramid of Light in that here's this completely unexplained element of the Millennium Item lore that we're going to throw at you and then never mention again, but act like it's super duper important. And Bonds Beyond Time in that stupid villain deck. Just absurd, over-the-top villain deck that in real life would never be playable. Certain cards from it maybe, but just in general, it's not playable. And so the whole thing just felt very much like a rehash. It was fun. I like the movie. It was fun. I don't think it was a good movie.
Yeah, well, we can do overall thoughts. I think Kaiba didn't come across as a a villain at all in this movie to me. I think he was squarely a good guy here, which I don't know if that's usually how that goes, but yeah.
Kaiba's a strange duck. I do like the character of Kaiba a lot.
Yeah, I think Kaiba's one of the better characters here. He was kind of the main character, actually. He
gets a bit too edgelord for me in some episodes, but here he was pretty good.
Yeah. Okay. Overall, 20 minutes in the podcast. Overall thoughts on the movie. This I don't think it was bad. I wouldn't call this like a bad movie. I think there's definitely times when it's like cringe, and there's times when it's like genuinely good. To me, this really feels like a. Here's my big comparison. This really feels like a Transformers movie. Like, this feels like the latest Transformers movie, like super bloated plot, too many characters at this point. It's like, kind of cool, like action sequences. And also like Transformers also deals with like the Egyptian mythology and like too. So it's like, I feel like, I don't really remember, but, it just really feels like that experience. I think at times, like, I was genuinely engaged with this movie. It definitely, like, there's no reason that this should have been 2 hours, 10 minutes. There's an entire sequence of Joey, like, running around in, like, his own mind that was all super pointless. Joey didn't even need to be in the movie. The Taya, she didn't need to be in the movie.
But she had to go to New York for her dance study abroad trip.
That had no relevance to the plot. I mean, I'm glad that they put the female character in there. There's like none in this movie, but she didn't do it. And none of the characters except Yugi, Yugi wasn't even that big of a character, to be honest. And Kaiba, Yugi, and then the villain were like the only ones that mattered here. And they just added bloated plot stuff on. We didn't need 5 duels or how many ever we saw.
If we were going to get 5 duels, they should have been better duels.
They should have been better. And I think the one that should have been cut is like the first one between Kaiba and Pharaoh in a simulation, but I even thought that was the best one, honestly. So I don't
Ironically, that's exactly how Pyramid of Light starts, is with Kaiba simulation dueling the Pharaoh, except that time he loses.
Okay, yeah.
So I think that might have been a throwback.
Yeah. Oh, my biggest complaint with the movie, Justin, I don't think we got one, "You've activated my trap card." We got a lot of
my trap card protected me. No, they overused the whole smoke cloud clears trap card played. Like, they overused that way too much by the end of that movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's like they inconspicuously set down. That's the whole. I feel like that's entire Yu-Gi-Oh! Though. It's like the trap card comes out at the last second, but clearly in this movie, it was like the entire plot of the duels.
Yes.
But yeah, like you didn't give me the iconic line. That's what I wanted. You just like, I'll play my trap card. No, activate. Like,
no. What I hated the most, they cut what was probably going to be one of the greatest duels ever.
What was the duel they cut?
Okay, the end. So spoiler. Kaiba uses the quantum cube or whatever it's called to somehow travel to the afterlife. Which, set that aside for a second. Kaiba's so rich he can beat death and go to the afterlife. Whatever.
I forgot this happened.
Ancient Egypt afterlife. Approaches the Pharaoh he's in like full cyberpunk gear at this point, and the Pharaoh just like stands up ready to duel. And we set the scene for the Pharaoh versus Kaiba in the afterlife, ready to go, and then they cut the movie.
Yeah.
I was hype.
Yeah, I don't even think that's spoilers because that is no relevance to the rest of the movie. So it's like, who cares? Like that they tack that on at the end. I don't. I think the end of the movie is kind of weak, in where they take the plot. I actually think like the middle of the beginning were the best parts of the movie. And then they just get in this dueling nonsense and they escalate the plot and it doesn't. When
they're randomly like, we're gonna have a massive tournament and we only ever see 3 people in the tournament.
Yeah, why is this a 3?
Because at first I was like, here we go, Battle City 2, or like the Duelist Grand Prix, or like a big tournament, and then we see a grand total of 3 duelists, and I'm like, really? You could have at least like, you didn't even have to make them speak, just be like, Rex is here and Weevil's here and Bandit Keith and my Valentine and everyone's here, and then just like cut to the final duel. Like, you could have done that, but no, you showed us 3 people at the tournament total.
Yeah, it was the end. The whole ending is a little absurd. Let me defend my claim that this is not a bad movie. I think the mythology of this movie is solid. I think that the villain, what is his name? It's
Diva, Igami, whatever you want to call
yeah,
him.
Diva, yeah, and Igami, yeah. I think he's the whole backstory with them in Egypt and their organization and the stuff with the sister. I think all of that is like good. Like I think that's why this movie works is that we get all of that. Like there's an element of it that which is really stupid, which is that the ring is like ultimately like the villain at the end, and the ring is we get no context for that. And
Well, if you've seen the show, basically, there's 7 Millennium items. The puzzle contains the spirit of the pharaoh, while the ring contains like this very evil spirit. And in the first season, we see that Bakura has the Millennium Ring, and we see like the evil side. There's no good name for him except Ryu Bakura, or Yami Bakura, or as the abridged version calls him, Florence, which is my preferred name for him. And so Florence, basically, he'll pop up like once a season and do something, but then in the back half of season 5, he does become like the main antagonist, and he's kind of like the antithesis of the pharaoh. And so it does make sense. I was actually really hyped when we saw the ring like in the rubble. I was like, oh my goodness, the spirit of the ring is coming back. I think they wasted it, but I like that they were like, the ring still has power. We defeated him, but there's still power there.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I think they could have explained better for people who may not have remembered all of that jazz, but
Yeah, I guess it works better context for me. It like the ring pops up midway through the movie, and then I completely forgot the ending that he turns into this like weird purple monster. I completely just didn't remember that until now. That's really bad. That's like the worst part of the movie is like he fuses with the ring or something, and then he like becomes this stupid cubic monster purple thing. Yeah, the ending of this movie's bad, but I think the mythology stuff with all the Egypt backstory and like the past teacher, and their organization and all the villain scenes of them like disappearing are kind of interesting too. So I think they kind of had something going there, and that's not nothing because that is a significant part of the movie.
As much as the third act gets very Deus Ex Machina and like aha, like I will argue there are some really good moments in there. I think when Yugi finishes the puzzle just to show Kaiba, and all you get is that click, I thought that was a really solid moment of Yugi being like, the Pharaoh's gone.
Yeah,
and it sucks, and I hate it, but he's gone.
Yeah, that was presented really well. There's no setup to the Pharaoh being gone, but like they could have, like that didn't land because it wasn't. I didn't understand that he like.
I knew because like. He left. Like his spirit was not there anymore. It was in the afterlife. Like that was the whole point of the show.
They mentioned that like once in the movie, but they didn't seem to care about that. And like, why does Kaiba not know he's gone then?
Because Kaiba's whole thing is that he acknowledges like half of the lore, and then beyond that, he'll acknowledge that like there's an ancient Egyptian pharaoh living in Yugi, but then he's like, I don't believe any of this ancient Egyptian stuff. I don't believe you.
Yeah, we got like
you'll believe like half of it.
We got like a second of that in this movie. That I didn't really get that either. We got like that stupid scene we're talking about when he like deflects the thing with technology. Like in that sequence, he says that for like a second, but mostly I didn't get that from the movie. Yeah, I think actually. So yeah, again with Kaiba, I actually think Kaiba is the second best element of the movie. I think first best is the Egypt mythology stuff that we get, and then I actually think Kaiba is good. I don't know, like I can't like point to him specifically any elements of him that are I just think he's solid throughout the movie, and we like see his entire arc, and he's very prominent, and he's like absurd, and I think the movie finds the right balance of him taking him seriously but also like understanding that he's just kind of a little bit of an absurd character. Like they do lampshade stuff he's saying sometimes.
I think my favorite line in the whole movie is it's towards the end where he's like, you have your bond with the Pharaoh and I have mine. Like that was just such a good moment of
yeah
because we get into it a bit in the show because Kaiba's beaten Yugi. He can beat Yugi no problem. He could never beat the Pharaoh. And Kaiba's whole thing before the show started was he was unbeatable. He was Seto Kaiba. And then the Pharaoh beats him.
Seto
and he could
Kaiba.
never Seto Kaiba. And then he could never beat the Pharaoh. And that was kind of like they touched on that kind of obsession a bit, but this movie really dove into the fact that like he is just obsessed. It's unhealthy. It's crazy. He is willing to literally cheat death to fight the Pharaoh again.
Yeah, I actually really agree with you. That line really landed. You have your bone, I have mine, because that, like, I feel like that's the best thing that they portray, in this movie is his journey and his obsession, Kaiba, and his obsession with, the Pharaoh. So, like, getting that it's not just like this. He's not just like this, like, antagonist to me. It's like this complicated relationship that did really work. Yeah.
Now, I keep harping on the fact that this movie had a lot of Deus Ex Machinas. I actually called it at one point Dark Side of Deus Ex Machinas, which I think is a fitting title. But as much as they do kind of just, every time something bad happens, magical fix, I did really enjoy some of those. Like when the puzzle just magically glows and the Pharaoh appears and wins the duel and leaves. I was screaming, I was hollering, I was hype. Like it had no purpose. It made no sense, but I loved it. And I think that, to me, like, this movie took me back to my childhood, where it's like, I don't care if the plot makes sense. I'm happy that, like, the Pharaoh's showing up and kicking butt.
Yeah.
Like, it's Yu-Gi-Oh! The Pharaoh has to be here.
Yeah.
And so
I think some of the duels got into that a little bit. Like the duels mostly didn't work, but I think, like, the hype of them, I think, was the right level, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The duels in this movie just weren't as strong to me, because, like, going back to Pyramid of Light, we have the first duel of Kaiba and the simulation of the Pharaoh. Cool stuff happens there. But my favorite duel in that movie is when Kaiba fights Pegasus to get the card to beat the Egyptian god cards. And that duel is just so good because of the history of Kaiba and Pegasus, and the duel itself follows all the rules. Like, it makes sense. Pegasus is using his Toon deck, Kaiba's using his XYZ deck, and he's got his Blue Eyes White Dragons, but he mostly harps on the XYZ cards. Not to be confused with XZs. This was like X Cannon, Y Dragon, the XYZ. You know what I mean if you're a Yu-Gi-Oh fan. And so it was focused on that more. And that's, like, to me, the best duel of that movie, because it was very grounded. It made sense within the context of the show. And then they got into all the Deus Ex Machina stuff with, like, I have the Pyramid of Light, and it's like the opposite of the Millennium Puzzle, and I'm now super evil, and here's my Sphinx cards, and the God cards are destroyed, and you're inside my puzzle. And it got into all that, but they did have, like, one really solid duel first. And this movie, to me, didn't have that. They had the simulation, but then they didn't have, like, a good second act normal duel. It went straight from the simulation to complete crazy Egyptian god card stuff. We didn't have just a normal series duel. And I think that felt missing to me.
Yeah, what I would have done is I would have cut all the Joey stuff, cut all the Taya stuff, cut all the guy, I don't even remember his name, the guy with the fangirls.
Oh, Bakura.
Bakura, yeah.
Bakura needs to at least be there for a little bit, because itty bitty baby Bakura murdering Shadi is kind of important.
Oh, yeah, that does come up, yeah.
You can cut Duke and Tristan, though. They don't need to be there. None of the high school stuff needs to be there.
Yeah, so I think a big thing is, like, Yugi is not the main character. So, like, I would have given Yugi more of an arc and, like, had a normal duel with Yugi, like, because I didn't feel anything with Yugi dueling at the end other than, like, nostalgia, because he's not really a big presence in this movie.
I would have really liked to see, just honestly, even if it was Kaiba on somebody, I wanted something normal for, like, a hot second before we dived into all the crazy stuff. And what is probably the one thing I just despised about this movie, it's not a bad movie. I know I'm harping on the bad stuff a lot, but it's because I'm such a big fan of the original show that this just irked me to no end. I've read a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Fan fiction. Like, legit attempts to, like, seriously add to the canon Yu-Gi-Oh! Fan fiction.
What's the ship in Yu-Gi-Oh?
Well, there's, of course, the Yugi Taya ship, if you want, like, a straight ship. But this show has so many slash pairs, it's not even funny.
Yugi Kaiba probably.
Yugi
right?
Kaiba's big.
Yeah.
But puzzle shipping is a big one. Yugi and the Pharaoh, which I almost thought we were going to puzzle ship for a bit.
He's just himself. It looks like himself. Like,
I really thought we were going to get some puzzle shipping towards the beginning, and I was, like, really hyped. I'm like, are they actually going to do this? There's thief shipping between Bakura and Merrick. I think Kaiba and the Pharaoh is a common ship. Kaiba and Joey is a common one. I'm so deep into Yu-Gi-Oh ships, it's not even funny. And I'm kind of ashamed that I know so many Yu-Gi-Oh ships because it's Yu-Gi-Oh. But at the same time, I'm a fangirl, so it happens. But no, I really thought we were going to puzzle ship for a hot second there. A common terrible element of Yu-Gi-Oh fan fiction is self-insert OC. I have the 8th millennium item. I have the 8th millennium item. I'm so special. I have the 8th millennium item. The show says there's 7. I have number 8. Look at me. I'm so cool. So when this movie literally said, behold the power of the 8th millennium item with no setup, that the cube, because I mean, yeah, the cube had the symbol, and I'm like, okay, it's connected to ancient Egyptian stuff. But with no setup of like, all they had to do was when Shadi gave him the cube. Because Shadi was the protector of the millennium items. And that's what confused me about this movie. I couldn't tell if it was our Shadi or not, because Shadi in the movie, or in the show, is, I think, alive, but I guess he was a ghost the entire time, because itty bitty baby Bakura killed him in cold blood. So I guess our Shadi's a ghost. I'm assuming this is the same Shadi. Like, I don't think they would introduce two and...
He was possessed by the ring, right? I don't think it was in
Yes,
cold
he was
blood.
possessed by the ring. It was itty bitty baby evil Bakura.
It's not intentional, yeah.
No. It was the spirit of the ring. And it was so cool to actually get that backstory on Bakura that we should have gotten in the show. So thank you for fixing that. But literally, the protector of the millennium items gives you something. All he had to say was, Diva, there's an 8th millennium item. This is it. I was keeping it safe, but now that the other 7 are gone, like, all he had to do was just one line of exposition as he was dying of, this cube is the 8th millennium item. That's all we needed.
Yeah.
But instead, we get randomly in the third act, behold the power of the 8th millennium item. I cringed so hard. I almost stopped watching. I'm like, nope, this just went to bad fan fiction. Like, this went from knockoff a Pyramid of Light to just bad fan fiction. Like, I feel like there is somewhere a 14-year-old boy. I am Aigami. I am so cool. Look at how hip I am. I have yellow eyes. Like, he felt like a self-insert OC for like half the movie. He got better. He really did. But at the beginning of the movie, it's like, who is this classmate we've never noticed? That's Aigami, don't you know? It felt so bad. Yeah. But it got better.
He got better. That the 8th thing completely didn't. That had no effect on me because I didn't understand the context. But yeah, I wish the cube did have backstory though. I did think about that. I think the intent with Aigami in the beginning, and I'm surprised they didn't talk about this, explain it. I think that they're trying to do is he actually came for when they see him in the beginning is the first time they actually see him, but he's casting like magic, like hypnotizing powers on them to like make them think he's been there all along. Yeah,
they should have dived into that more, I thought.
Yeah, I definitely
not that I want this movie to be longer, but they should have dived into that more.
As much like it's 2:10 and they didn't. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what they intended, but it's weird that they didn't explain it. Yeah,
so long.
Yeah. Also, why does he need to be in their class? Why did he want to be? Was there a purpose? I guess to be close. I
know I'm harping so much on the bad of this movie, but I did legitimately enjoy it. I had fun with this movie.
Yeah.
I don't think it's one of the best. I don't even think it's the best Yu-Gi-Oh movie ever made. I think Pyramid of Light was personally better. I know there are people who disagree on that. I think Pyramid of Light was better. I think Bonds Beyond Time is probably better, and I haven't even seen it. But this was... It's not bad. It's fun nostalgia for me.
Yeah.
And that's the best way I can put it. I really enjoyed the Kaiba stuff and the Bakura stuff. The rest was just, why?
Yeah. I guess I liked the Diva stuff more than you. But...
No, I like the Diva stuff. I like the Plana and it felt too much like a retread of Merrick. Because literally, in seasons 2 and 3, we get a character with ancient Egyptian ties, who is directly connected to the Pharaoh, knows Shadi, cares about his little sister.
You're describing Diva.
Has an Egyptian best friend who just kind of chills there until he becomes possessed by something evil, dies, and motivates our character to be even more evil
What do you mean kind? What do you mean kind of too similar? That's literally the same thing as this movie.
Merrick and Diva are the exact same character. Diva's slightly less evil than Merrick is the only exception. They even both have a Millennium item.
Yeah, that sounds exactly the same.
Literally, Merrick and Diva are the same character. The only difference is Merrick is oddly pretty. Like, Diva's attractive, but Merrick is just like a gorgeous man. And I know you don't remember Merrick, so I'm going to show you this so you just realize what I am talking about.
Okay, yeah.
Because I think right now,
Merrick Garland. Is that who you're talking? No,
Merrick Ishtar.
Yeah. So with Diva, I think what we got was like good. I wish that they explained like the cube, explained the Plana more because they're kind of just there. And I really wish I understood why he was doing what he was doing other than he's been consumed by hate. I did like the hate cloud sphere thing that felt very, Yu-Gi-Oh! Or it felt very kids movie type thing.
Star Wars.
Yeah, but it's like very blatant and it was fine. I'm looking at this character. I guess. He's like with light green hair. That's kind of interesting.
It's kind of just like, it's yellowish. That shot is just bad of his hair.
Yeah. It's an interesting looking character. But yeah, I think he needed motivation. Like his sister broke off from him and he's been clouded by it. Yeah, but like, why is he doing this? Like, and it was good enough. The hate thing was fine, but, I think it's like a tweak or two away from being like genuinely good storytelling as opposed to like a good element of a meh movie.
Also, Battle City, the tournament is a tournament created by Kaiba to unite the three god cards because Kaiba has one, Merrick has one, and Yugi has one. This tournament that didn't even get named is an attempt to unite the Millennium Puzzle because Kaiba has most of it, Diva has one piece, and Yugi has one piece. It's literally the same plot, which I think is why this movie kind of drug on to me a bit too long because it felt like the exact same stuff we've seen. But I did enjoy the nostalgia factor of it. Like Kaiba making a tournament. Oh, Kaiba. And so this is why I'm torn. Because on one hand, I really did enjoy it. But on the other hand, it feels so similar to so many things they've done to where I'm like, this doesn't even feel like its own thing. It feels like just a hodgepodge. Yet I did enjoy it. And so I'm so confused as to like whether or not I like this movie. Help me, Dylan. I'm confused.
Well, I don't have the context of it being too similar to things. From what you've described, that sounds remarkably similar in multiple elements to other movies. So, I mean, for me, without that factor, I guess overall I did enjoy it. Like it hit enough of, it was like an absurd, like action over the top anime thing. And, I think it did enough interesting plot elements and there's enough of a nostalgia thing for me as well. I was gonna say the thing that hit for me with nostalgia was Dark Magician Girl. I'm glad we threw them in there with,
I think they slightly redesigned Dark Magician, but I really like the redesign. Yeah. Like, I thought he looked awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I think he was a lot more purple in the original. And this looked like a lot sleeker, and I really enjoyed this design of Dark Magician.
Yeah, he did look cool. Yeah, yeah, but just all of that together, I think it was good overall. But I also lack the context of it being, But I think probably that's what they're going for is something similar because why set this after like the original? And ignore. I assume they're ignoring a bunch of stuff in the middle that happens since. Since
no,
then.
Because this takes place only 1 year. This takes place 1 year after the original. So basically, they're like, this is the conclusion of the Yugi Kaiba arc before GX starts up in a few years after that happens.
Yeah, so it's like the intent is to be similar to like the original. Like it's the intent. The intent is the nostalgia. So like they're specifically going for this. Maybe they made it too similar, but like it's definitely intentional.
Yeah, it's not bad. I thought it was too repetitive, but I really enjoyed it. I did like the movie.
Yeah. Would you recommend it to someone?
I will recommend it to Yu-Gi-Oh fans.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
If you like the original Yu-Gi-Oh,
yeah,
give this a try because to me, if you're a classic Yu-Gi-Oh fan, you will really like the Kaiba stuff, the Bakura stuff, and even some like the Yugi dealing without the Pharaoh stuff. Like if you want resolution after like the Pharaoh's gone, we look off into the sunset. If you want resolution this gives you that resolution, and I think it does it well. If you're not a fan of the original Yu-Gi-Oh, you're not gonna get it. Like, if you casually remember some of it, you might enjoy it like Dylan did. If you've never seen the original series, just go back to watching Arc 5 and Zexal and 5Ds and GX and what. If you've never seen Yu-Gi-Oh, like the original series, don't watch this movie. You won't get a single word of it.
Yeah, if this was 90 minutes instead of 130 minutes, then
it'd be so much easier to recommend.
Right, like then I could say if you're a fan of over-the-top action anime, you could even if you don't like Yu-Gi-Oh, you could check this out. Like I think there's enough there if they cut out like a lot, but it's too unwieldy at 210. It's
this
like
movie is only 10 minutes shorter than Hacksaw Ridge. I watched both movies yesterday.
Wow.
This felt longer than Hacksaw Ridge.
Oh, Hacksaw Ridge feels so long, though. That
movie
is really long.
It's a Mel Gibson movie. Of course it feels long.
That movie also, I would cut out 40 minutes and it'd be much better. Same thing. Yeah, it's... I don't know. It was... I'm not regretting having spent time with it, but
no, I really enjoyed watching it. And I was really hyped to do this podcast because I'm like, I get to talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! This is gonna be dope.
Yeah,
and this has been a very dope hour of our lives, Dylan.
Dope.
I feel.
Which Yu-Gi-Oh! Character would say dope? Probably Joey Wheeler.
I feel like Joey.
Yeah,
or maybe Tristan.
Who is Tristan?
Tristan's the one with the brown, really weird point coming off the top of his hair.
Is he the one? Is he the other male in the
yes.
group? He is zero. He does zero in this movie.
Yes, but he randomly does know how to ride a motorcycle, so I feel like he would be the one to see.
Okay.
Oh, the other best line in this movie is when Kaiba's talking about the simulation. I recreated the pharaoh perfectly, even down to his perfectly coiffed hair. That took the most time. That
was actually really funny. Yeah,
that might have. It's either that line. Kaiba just had the best lines in this movie because he is so over the top.
Yeah. Yeah, I really think they handled his over the topness well. He's like genuinely like the best character in the movie. So he
travels from a space station to the afterlife, and that was not the most absurd part of this movie. Is the point I really need to just drive?
Why did they tack that on at the end? That was
I don't know, but then they didn't even give us the duel, and I'm like, no.
Yeah.
It felt as bad as the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX finale. Where after going through everything that Jaden went through, becoming evil by accident, GX Season 4 that never even got an English dub because it was so different. Finally, he gets back to the real world, and we get the finale. Jaden versus Yugi, the original versus the new guy. It's like a 4-part episode, I think. And it ends without showing who wins the duel. Yeah. This might have been even more of a screw you to the fans than that.
Yeah, I don't. For me, the end was fine. I mean, I didn't need to see that duel, I guess, but I also didn't need to see that whole sequence. So I
wanted to know how the Pharaoh was going to fight. Like,
is that? Do you think that's a sequel set up for another thing, or they just threw it in?
Just give me an OVA. Just give me like a 15-minute DVD extra. That's all I want. I'm not picky.
Yeah, they could do that. They could make an OVA of the.
All I want is an OVA.
Yeah.
Like, look, Pokemon Origins gave us, like, the big fight of, like, Red and Blue and the championship. Then in Pokemon Generations, they gave us just a little 4 or 5 minute thing of Blue becoming champion before Red showed up. That's all I want. I just want, like, a little OVA tacked on. OVA, that's us. That's all I want. All I want is, like, a Pokemon Generations episode of this. That's all I'm asking for.
Yeah, that's why that's our acronym, and for people who couldn't figure that out. Yeah,
is that actually why that's our acronym?
Yeah, it's a pun with the anime OVA.
That's adorable. I love that.
Yeah,
I should have come on when we actually started the show, but I came on like 6 months late, so I missed that.
I mean, I think that was that was even pre-podcast one. So yeah, I think Sam came up with that. But yeah, anyway,
that is a Sam thing to come up with.
Yeah.
All right. So, any final thoughts on Dark-Sided? Are you going to go out and buy the tie-in pack of cards for Dark-Sided Dimensions?
No, the cubic monsters were stupid. No.
You don't want Devi's White Dragon and Gandora X Dragon of Ruin? Because I kind of want Gandora X Dragon of Ruin. I will admit.
I don't even remember Gandora. I remember Devi's.
The dragon that Yugi pulled out of nowhere.
I barely remember that. The last 20 minutes of this movie is a blur. I don't really know.
I want Lemon Magician Girl, like, no joke.
Yeah, that was stupid in the movie, but it's like, that's kind of interesting.
So I like the little fruit magicians that help build up Dark Magician Girl. Like, I love support cards in an archetype.
Yeah.
I would like that.
Yeah.
So before we go, I do have to ask Dylan, what kind of deck did you run back in the day?
I don't know. I remember having Dark Magician, Blue Eyes. I can't remember though. The interesting thing is I play Magic the Gathering now, like regularly. Like that's
I know you do.
One of my main hobbies.
You've missed podcasts. You've been like Justin host. I'm going to a Magic tournament.
Yeah, that happens a lot. Yeah. So I mean, I'm not like the Yu-Gi-Oh card games. The Yu-Gi-Oh card game is like the most similar thing to Magic in terms of like what you'd compare it to. So, yeah, so it's not like playing Yu-Gi-Oh would be outside of my, outside of my wheelhouse. But, yeah, I could find my cards. I think I still have them. But
when the new version of Dueling Network gets put online, I'll let you know.
Okay, that's the Yu-Gi-Oh online?
It was Dueling Network was an unofficially made thing where it had very little assist from the machine. You basically kind of had to like do it all yourself, but it worked really nicely, and like you could use any cards you want. Eventually, I think Konami issued a cease and desist. I think is what happened. So Dueling Network got shut down, which was sad, but it made sense. But I think they are working on a new version.
Yeah,
so hopefully that one will stay online.
Sounds like cockatrice for Magic, but there's an official Magic client, so yeah. Yeah,
my thing is Pokemon Showdown is somehow still online, but Dueling Network got taken down.
I also had a lot of Pokemon cards. That's a whole separate podcast, but
yeah.
So yeah, overall, I enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed certain elements of the movie, and that was an interesting nostalgia trip. It does a little bit make me want to go back to the original Yu-Gi-Oh series, and like
I recommend watching Arc 5. I haven't seen it yet. If we both watch it, we should totally like do just one podcast on it. Yeah. I hear Arc 5 starts a little bit slow, but I hear it actually becomes one of the better anime. Okay. I would because I've tried going back and watching the original show as much as I love it. God, it's cringy at times. Like, I do love it. I have a soft spot for it. Battle City is one of my favorite arcs in any anime ever made. Like, I will never forget my love of Battle City. Ever. But, it's cringy.
Arc 5 aired 150 episodes between
Did it really?
2014 and 2017. It just ended 5
days Arc
ago,
5
apparently.
just ended. Like, I didn't realize it went that long.
150 episodes. Oh my god.
That's actually not the longest, probably, though.
The series introduces pendulum monsters and pendulum summoning.
Ignore pendulum summoning. Just ignore it. I hear it's okay, but just ignore it. Don't worry about it.
Why is there so many types of summoning? Why would
they try to add like a new mechanic every generation? Apparently, if you want to watch it, it does apparently air in America on Nicktoons at 5:10 a.m. So, check your local listings, guys.
Oh my god. Nick. Okay, Nick. Wow.
Nick, we burn off all our shows.
Yep. Yeah, your last thoughts.
My last thoughts are: can we get a GX movie now? If this did well, because I want to know who won the duel. I want resolution. I want more Cyrus. Just that's all. Just give it. Just please. I want a GX movie. Yeah, and that's all I want.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm happy.
Yeah,
I enjoyed this. This was fun. This was a fun time, Dylan.
Yeah, I was surprised at how much I didn't hate watching that. Is what I will say. It was completely fine. Yeah.
All right, so then if that's our final thoughts, thank you guys so much for listening for almost an hour about a Yu-Gi-Oh movie you probably didn't know existed. This was a lot of fun. Thank you so much, John, for recommending this. Recommending/mandating this, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, if you want to support us, you can do so by going to patreon.com/overlyanimated. You can find out about all our patron rewards. Those are going to be updated pretty soon, you said, Dylan. So keep an eye on that. When are they officially getting updated? Do you know?
By the time this is up, they'll be updated.
All right, so don't worry about it. By the time this is updated, by the time you're listening, this will have already occurred. That's the magic of podcast land. So check that out. See if you want to support us. We love any support you can give. You can also support us by liking and reviewing us on iTunes. Those really do help more people find us, and the more people that find us, the more fans that you have to discuss with. So it helps you have more people to talk to, because we can't always answer you because, we're on the other side of the monitor and all that jazz. But help us get more fans so you have more people to talk to. It's a win-win. So review us on iTunes. Check us out on Patreon. Thank you again, John, so much for all your support and for giving me a reason to talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! That I never thought I'd have. So, any upcoming podcasts you want to talk about, Dylan?
It's not clear when this is going up, so just check out the continued Samurai Jack coverage and sporadic other podcasts. Yep.
Yeah, we do those things. There's not much going on in animation right now, guys. So just keep an eye on whatever it is we decide to do.
Other than leaks.
Leaks. Thank you, Cartoon Network, once again.
Yep. Other than Cartoon Network apparently putting googly eyes on all their shows today, which is their April Fool's prank.
Today is April Fool's, by the way. We're recording this today, April Fool's. So
yeah, apparently Cartoon Network just put googly eyes on. I don't know. Yeah, I saw
Dylan,
that.
Can we do an April Fool's podcast on something really, really stupid after we're done with this?
That is
like a 20-minute,
podcast.
really stupid April Fool's podcast?
No, that is this podcast. This is the stupid podcast.
This is not stupid. This was legitimately enjoyable.
Yeah,
Dylan, when I say stupid, I'm saying let's do a Hamtaro review.
Dude, I love Hamtaro. I love Hamtaro.
So what I'm hearing is we're going to go do Hamtaro next.
We'd have to watch something to do that, though. We'd have to find an episode. I don't want to do. We could. That's actually something that's possible. A Hamtaro retrospective, that's possible.
Thank you so much for listening, everyone, and I guess we will see you next time.
Yep.
All right. Bye.